All right, folks, it's Bass Action, back in action here. On this video, we're going to be finishing up your green foldable. So if you're looking at your foldable on the front, we're going to be on the right-hand side. So we're going to fill in all three windows on the right-hand side. We're actually going to start at the bottom window on that right-hand side. We're going to look at kites. We're going to go our longest property, our longest list of properties first, and then we'll end with our shortest. So looking at our kites, we first need to understand what is a kite. And a kite is, of course, a quadrilateral. We can see that. And it's specifically a quadrilateral with, and I'm going to list this one first, two distinct, it means they can't be the same, okay? Two distinct pairs of consecutive, abbreviate these, congruent sides. So what that's saying is that there's no way that all four sides could be the same because it has to be two distinct pairs, and our sides need to be in order. They need to be consecutive. So for example, this one is going to be congruent to this one, my SR congruent to ST, and then my TA is going to be congruent to RA. And they cannot all be the same because they have to be two distinct pairs and they have to be consecutive. Now you would either be given exactly which ones are, or you'll just be told it's a kite and it'll be pretty obvious which pairs are your congruent pairs. Now our next property is going to be that the non-vertex angles, so our non-vertex angles are congruent. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking, well, what are my vertex angles? Well, what I want you to be able to picture here is that if we imagine this diagonal drawn in right here, what I really have here is an isosceles triangle, and then I have another isosceles triangle. So by visualizing those isosceles triangles, what I can see is that this angle R and angle T are what we're going to call non-vertex angles. Because if I'm thinking about the isosceles triangle, angle S and angle TA would be vertex angles. So the non-vertex angles will be congruent to each other. So this angle T is going to be congruent to angle R. And just like we did with our parallelograms, I'm going to kind of give this, it looks almost like a brace, because we're going to draw in a diagonal in a little while, and it'll help us to remember that it's the whole angle there that's congruent. Now my next property that I'm going to list here is I'm going to identify the fact that the vertex angles, remember that's S and A, are going to be bisected by the diagonal. So the vertex angles are bisected. So we can draw in that diagonal. So we're going to draw in SA. And what we'll find is that these vertex angles are going to be bisected, which means this angle is going to be congruent to this angle. And this angle, I'm going to use a different color, is going to be congruent to that angle. They're not necessarily the same values. In fact, they won't be the same values, but they are bisected. Next property that I can list is that the diagonals are going to be perpendicular to each other. And we've seen this property before. So our diagonals are going to be perpendicular. And we'll recall that our rhombus also had perpendicular diagonals. So just having perpendicular diagonals doesn't determine what kind of shape we have. So our diagonals are going to be perpendicular, so we can mark that in there. And our last property that we can list for a kite is a little bit wordy, but what we're going to say is that the diagonal for the non-vertex angles is bisected. So that means these little pieces are congruent. So we can also think of this property 5 right here. We can also think of this from the perspective that the diagonal connecting the vertex angles is a perpendicular bisector of the other diagonal. So that's another way to think about that. All right, now let's take a look at trapezoids. So if I look at my trapezoids, the first thing that I want to call your attention to is the fact that this trapezoid right here is what we would consider our most basic trapezoid. This trapezoid CARS, this one is really the one that most students think of when I say picture a trapezoid. But this trapezoid CARS is a very special trapezoid for us. This one is an isosceles trapezoid, and an isosceles trapezoid has some very specific properties. We're going to start with our definition of just a trapezoid, and our definition of trapezoid says that it's going to have exactly one pair of parallel sides. Remember, if it had two pairs of parallel sides, it'd be a parallelogram. So an isosceles trapezoid, or a trapezoid in general, will have one pair of parallel sides. You'll either be told what they are, or it'll be pretty obvious. Now, into the things that are related to isosceles trapezoids. An isosceles trapezoid is going to have congruent legs, and our legs are going to be the non-parallel sides. So if you want to write that down, you can. Those are the non-parallel sides, if you're not sure. So those are going to be congruent. Then we can say that it's going to have both pairs. I'm going to use that abbreviation BP again. Both pairs of base angles are congruent. Now they're not congruent to each other, but this pair of base angles, so angle S and angle R, are congruent to each other, and angle C and angle A are congruent to each other. So we can mark those angles. So angle S and angle R are congruent, and then we can say that angle A is going to be congruent to angle C. And just like we did earlier, we're going to draw on some diagonals here in a moment, so we can kind of draw on these little supports. They look like little extra brackets to remind ourselves that it is the full angle that's congruent there. And then lastly, we can say that the diagonals are actually congruent to each other. And just like we saw with our kite, with our perpendicular diagonals, we've seen congruent diagonals before as well. And our congruent diagonals also occur in our rectangles. So keep in mind that just having congruent diagonals does not determine a particular type of shape. It's just a property that we get from knowing the shape that we have. Now, we can draw in those diagonals. So I can draw in SA. If you guys have a straight edge, it'll be a little bit easier for you guys to draw these in. And I can draw in SR. And I would strongly encourage you to just quickly measure those and just get a comfort level that those are in fact congruent to each other. Notice that the diagonals are not bisected. They're not going to be bisectors of each other because that would make it a parallelogram. And then the last question we're going to answer about these is that take a look at our properties 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so if I look at properties 2, 3, and 4, would those three properties apply if my trapezoid was not isosceles? So for example, this trapezoid here, if all I knew was that these sides were parallel, would the other three properties apply? So think about the legs. Are these legs congruent to each other? Is this leg congruent to this? Nope. Are these base angles congruent? Does this look congruent to this? Definitely not. One's acute and one's obtuse. And would the diagonals be congruent? Imagine drawing those in. Do those look like they're the same? Definitely not. So properties 2, 3, and 4 don't apply if it's not an isosceles trapezoid. If it's just a plain regular trapezoid, you kind of don't get very much of anything. Okay, last window on this foldable, we're going to look at midsegments, and we're not going to do all of these properties of midsegments right now. We're only going to do some of these, and we'll finish the rest off in class. Now, a midsegment is going to be a segment that joins two midpoints. So we can write that as a note. It's going to join two midpoints. So if segment AE is a midsegment, then RA is congruent to AC and ME is congruent to EL. They're not necessarily congruent to each other. So if this is not an isosceles trapezoid, this piece is congruent to this piece, but RA is not going to be congruent to ME. Now, what we can say about our midsegment, and we're actually going to measure these out in class and show this a little bit more, but I just want you to have the properties written down. If this is a trapezoid, RM is parallel to CL, but what is true if it's a midsegment is that the midsegment is parallel to both bases. So AE is going to be parallel to both the top and the bottom. And then the next property, and like I said, we're going to measure this one out in class. We're going to write a formula for this. We're going to say that the midsegment is equal to 1/2 the sum of the two bases. So we can write this RM plus CL. So our midsegment AE is going to be half that sum. We can also rearrange this equation, and you might have a preference. You can write 2 times the midsegment equals RM plus CL. So 2 ways that we can write that. So, and we're going to work with that algebra quite a bit. We also have a midsegment and a triangle, so I'm just going to kind of lay some groundwork on this one. So if ER is my midsegment, I can label that as a midsegment and say that BE is congruent to EZ and BR is congruent to RA. And very similar to what we had for our midsegment in a trapezoid, we are going to find that our midsegment is parallel to the third side, the side that it doesn't intersect. So the midsegment, my pen's working a little funny here, sorry guys, is parallel to the third side. And remember, it has to be parallel to the one that it's not intersecting. So this is going to be parallel to this. The other thing that we can say is just like we had with our midsegment, but we don't have two sides now, we can say that the midsegment is equal to 1/2 that third side. So in this case, my midsegment is 1/2 of ZA. And we could rearrange that in the same way that we did with our with the midsegment for the trapezoid. The third property here, I'm going to leave that one blank because we're going to extend this a little bit more when you're in class. So spend a little time thinking through these properties, making sure that they make sense, and then we will extend them and apply them in class.